Yeah.
Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. I'd like to say a few words about the topic that I found very interesting. It's the relationship between science and religion, and Torah in particular. Found that there are four groups of people, and there are four different types of attitudes. The first attitude is that science is right. Why science is right? Because it works. We all use cell phones, we all drive cars, and in general, primarily in the 19th century, there was an attitude saying that religion cannot be checked. On contrary, science is experimental. If I drop this thing, it falls, means there is gravity, and if you drop this thing, it falls. And if a person in China or in Iran drops this thing, it falls. It means there is gravity. We can reach consensus, but we may not reach consensus on many spiritual and religious issues. Secondly, there was and there is still a concept that science discovers the truth. And if something is not scientific, maybe it's not true. How you know that it's true? The second group is the group of people that believes that religion is right and science is wrong. Why? For many reasons. First, religion is part of tradition. It's part of their worldview. There is also a common concept that science cannot teach you cannot prove what is right and what is wrong. And that's why it cannot guide you in life. And religion is something that can. And that's why if there is a contradiction, religion must be right and science must be wrong. The members of these two groups frequently argue with each other. The group that says that science is wrong and the religion is wrong. People who believe that, and the other way, people who believe that religion is right and science is wrong, they frequently, in a way of collision, and they argue. The common argument that many people who believe in science bring, that religion is a result of certain culture. That's the way people are brought up. That's what they were taught. Or lack of education, or some kind of secondary gain, it's a response to certain psychological needs, and vice versa. People who believe that religion is right, they blame the scientific community of sometimes concealing the truth, manipulating the truth, or just believing in certain ideas just to justify certain things, such as non-commitment to certain moral standards. And in my humble opinion, all these cases sometimes true. And both sides bring certain examples that sometimes true. However, there are people who sincerely believe in religion or certain philosophical ideas, not because they have certain secondary gain, or they have certain psychological problems, or just because that's their culture. And on the other hand, there are people who believe in science because they were looking for truth and they believe that it's a wonderful thing, and not because of some secondary gains or insincere motives. The third group is a group of people who says, yes, there is a contradiction between science and religion, however we'll fix it. How we'll fix it? We'll show you that it's just a misunderstanding, that Primarily, these people are religious people who, because of the success of science, want to find a proof for their religious beliefs. Though I enjoy Discovery Seminar, that's the idea behind Discovery Seminar. So you thought that there is a contradiction, we'll prove that there is no contradiction. And that's very interesting. Always it's very interesting to find the relationship between the science and a religion belief. But there is a big problem with this approach, and more than one. Problem number one, you work so hard to reconcile both, sometimes picking certain interpretation of your religious concept and certain scientific ideas, only to discover 20, 30 years later that the science changed. And what are you going to do? You're going to start from square number one to reconcile it with the new science. There is also a sense of being apologetic when you do that, because the feeling is that you do it because you feel threatened, and in order to justify your religious beliefs, you try to kind of find a solution. There is sometimes a feeling that there is a slight stretch in this approach. In addition, it's a double-edged sword, because if you want science to prove religious view, what happens if it doesn't prove it or disprove it? Or, all these methods are learnable. For example, I did night float in Jamaica Hospital in New York, where is a big Islamic community, and once I saw there were flyers for discovery programs for Quran. And what does that mean? Or you can create those programs. If you feel the science should prove something, you should accept the proof. And the fourth group, which sounds like very strange at first look, that says it's true that there is a contradiction between religious views and, let's say, Torah and scientific views. For example, we believe that our world is less than 6,000 years old, and that's our calendar. On the other hand, scientific theories range between 6 to 15 billion years. And this is fine, and nothing to worry about. And this is true, and this is fine. And it sounds that there is a contradiction, but there is none. It sounds like counterintuitive, and we'll discuss it in the end. But that's an interesting approach, because it allows you to maintain or to choose in a certain religious or philosophical system, and it gives you an opportunity to be in touch with modern science, and to understand that modern science will change, and not to be threatened by that, and not to require science to be your helper or advocate, or not to be threatened by it. You don't need science to prove or disprove your beliefs. And it sounds like that joke that Rabbi Bobzer brought in the past about the new rabbi in town. Somebody, on the second day, somebody came to him and asked him a question about monetary issues. He had a dispute with somebody else, and obviously, you can't issue real judgment without listening to the second side. So he told him that he wanted, to be social, so he listened, and he said, it sounds that you're right. The next day, the second side came to him, and again, he listened to him and said, I understand, sounds like you're right. Then his wife listened to him and said, you're the rabbi, you're the authority, you have to decide, you just can't say you're right and you're right. He listened to him and said, it sounds that you're right too. So it sounds like that, but it is really not that simple. In order to understand the cause and the reason for this contradiction, I think we should understand the history of the relationship between